The Indianapolis Reentry Educational Facility was the deciding factor for me when I participated in the Bridge program. It sounded exciting and it wasn't something that I wanted to miss out on. Although I was excited for the experience, not all my thoughts were positive. The only aspect of the experience that made it less exciting was the fact that I had to participate in Toastmasters. Toastmasters was a public speaking group intended to help your speaking and communication skills. And that didn't really excite me at all because I've always hated public speaking. Then there was the prisons, and I imagined they'd kind of be like the movies, where the prisoners were mean, closed-minded, and have absolutely no sense of morality. I was expecting us to go into their environment and try and change their minds and the way that they look at the criminal justice system. And when I was asked, "Aren't you scared to go into a prison and be around all those convicted felons?" I answered no, although I was extremely nervous as to how they would react with us invading their territory and their home. Yet when we arrived, the feel of the facility wasn't anything like I expected. First of all, security wasn't as tight as I thought it would be. It was time-consuming, but it was merely just a plain security check with a pat-down. And after getting through security and entering the prison, I noticed that the residents were just walking around on their own with no supervision, wearing civilian clothing, and even smoking cigarettes. When I questioned our tour guide about it, who was a resident himself, he explained that they are given a lot of freedom because of the fact that they are focused on reentry. Some of these residents are even allowed outside clearance for jobs. And this seemed extremely laid back to me, but after I realized this, it wasn't just about us going in and trying to change their mind, it was about them trying to change ours about who they were. And when discussing prisons, reentry isn't something that normally comes up in conversation, although throughout the process I realized that it should be. Within criminal justice, I learned that the majority of prisoners will return to prison after being released. And this can be caused by a multitude of reasons, but the biggest one being that they had absolutely no help or assistance while they were in prison. The prison system only makes a good criminal better at it when no one helps them try and get out of that system. And when the guys wanted help, they didn't get it. So instead, they might just get another prison sentence. This semester, I realized that my bias towards the overall definition of prisoner was wrong. These men were nothing like I had imagined, and their feelings, morals, values, their regrets, and they even had sorrow for the fact that they had done what they had done. But they were very willing to accept the responsibility in their actions. Having noticed my rude biases towards them, I knew that I had a lot of work to do on myself. Dr. Garcia had us take implicit bias tests to see what we could learn about ourselves, and after taking these tests, I think it's a requirement for all criminal justice field workers to have to take these, because you can treat people extremely differently and not even acknowledge that you're doing it. These biases can make the criminal justice system extremely inconsistent and unfair. Just Johnny had told us about how he was convicted of an A felony drug charge, and he was sentenced to 30 years minimum. Just minimum for his first offense, yet he was sentenced longer than most child molesters. He's not alone either. A very large amount of prisoners are in for drug-related charges and are only there because of minimum sentencing laws. This is increasing our prison population to higher than it's ever been, and most of these people don't even need prison time. They just need help. And then Greg told us about how he had killed at age 14, and he was waived to the adult system, which is where he has been for the past 23 years. The juvenile justice system was put in place for a reason, which was to help the juveniles. Yet Greg got absolutely no help or assistance as a juvenile that he desperately needed, and now his entire life has been wasted away moving from prison to prison. I feel that the passion for the juvenile justice system because I want to reduce those numbers, and I want to steer kids in the right direction so we can help them be on the right path for their adult life. These men at IREF are talented, charming, passionate, and loving people to be around. They treat you with respect and absolutely nothing less. And this might have been enhanced by the fact that they were a part of Toastmasters, but overall, I could never see them as the monsters that society would portray them to be. The Toastmasters is a speaking club intended to help your public speaking, as I had mentioned earlier. And since we're all required to take speech in college, there was no way to avoid it, so I figured I might as well embrace it. But these residents were phenomenal speakers. The club helped them so much, and they took it so seriously because of the fact that they were going to be released soon. They were so ready for the free world. And surprisingly, my level of comfort at IREF was higher than even in my speech classroom. I felt much more welcome, as if the people there weren't judging me when I was presenting at IRF. I thought that I would be terrified to speak in front of them, considering the fact that I knew absolutely nothing about them. But I've learned so much in such a little amount of time that it doesn't even bother me to get up in front of the classroom and talk to them. I take their evaluations very seriously, and I always try and improve. I'm now learning how to communicate with so many different types of people, and that will help me so much in my professional life when I'm dealing with all sorts of different characters. Professionally, IRF has made me consider a lot more careers than what I had initially planned for. I had always wanted to be a criminal psychologist, just so that I could diagnose the criminals and understand why they made the decisions that they did. But now I think I'm looking more into the bigger picture and how I can make an impact on the overall cause, which is the prisoners. I was ignorant coming into this experience, and I put all the blame on the criminals because that's how society trains you to be. But now I'm seeing that that might not be the case. My passion within prisons has taken me by a surprise, but I'm very happy that I discovered it. My views towards not only criminals, but the criminal justice system overall, and even myself, have changed dramatically throughout this semester because of this experience, and I'm very thankful for it. IRF was an experience that I will never forget, not to mention something that I can always use on my resume. I went into this experience thinking that I would be the one teaching them, but personally, I think they've taught more to me. They've made me realize how important and beneficial the reentry process truly is, and I was mistaken when I thought that all criminals were the ones to blame and that all of them deserved the punishment that they got. Had I never had this experience, I wouldn't have realized my passion for the prison system, and my mind wouldn't have opened up the way it is now. I'm so very thankful for this opportunity, and I would recommend it to anybody.